Chapter 12. The Passage of the Waters. Eager to search, in and throughout its ways, the sacred wood, whose thick and leafy tent spread in my sight, tempered the new sun's rays. I made no pause, but left the cliff and went, with lingering steps, across the level leas, where all the soil breathed out a fragrant scent. Dante himself now leads the way, though Virgil has not yet left him, and the three poets move into the sacred wood of the earthly paradise. All through these cantos, Dante refers to Eden not as a garden, as one might expect, but as a forest. Inevitably, we remember, and are surely meant to remember, the dark and threatening wood in which Dante had been lost. There is, we sense, only one wood, split off from our true identity, stumbling about in the fogs of pride and desire. The innocent forest of the unconscious is dark and destructive to us, and its paths lead down into despair. But here at the summit of human consciousness, free, whole, and upright, a man finds the forest again, the strength and beauty of the great trees thrusting up from the fragrant soil, the grateful shade of the branches, the rustling of the leaves in the gentle wind, and the singing of the birds. They welcomed with rejoicing song the dawn wind to the leaves. Thus it is with all the archetypes, with all the life of nature for that matter. Nature outside or within is innocent both in its dark and its light aspects. It is the attitude, the degree of wholeness in each human being which determines the impact upon him. Here is the place of the unconscious innocence of the beginning and of infancy, from which all men fall or grow into the darkness of ignorance and conflict to which Dante has returned through greater darkness and the climb to the purging fire. Dante's earthly paradise is empty of human beings, for no man dwells there since Adam and Eve fell into the quest for consciousness. For those who make the return, it is now merely a place of passage, a gateway to the stars. For the conscious return takes us far beyond the state of natural innocence. So Dante walks through the ancient wood and comes to a little river, whose water is so clear that he says, "Whatso waters over here we call clearest were cloudy by comparison." And looking across the stream, he sees a lady all alone who wandered there, singing and plucking flower on floweret gay, with which her path was painted everywhere. This lady is one of the most enchanting people in the Commedia. Wise and beautiful, full of grace and courtesy, she sparkles with gaiety and wit. She is the forerunner sent to bring Dante to Beatrice, and it is she, as we shall see, who leads him through the waters of the twin rivers of Lethe and Euno. Indeed, she drags him through the first. The commentators say briefly that she represents the active life, and indeed it is obvious that Leah in Dante's dream is the image behind her. But because Dante's figures are all identifiable people, actual or mythological, there has been a great deal of speculation about her. Later, Beatrice casually calls her by name, Matilda. Dorothy Sayers surmises that she was probably a friend of Beatrice's in Florence, whom Dante knew by name, and it seems a likely guess. Matilda is one of the most vivid examples of what happens to cold allegory under the magic of Dante's vision. Matilda, we say rightly, stands for the active life, but then we laugh at the absurdity of that bald statement. Matilda is Matilda, a unique and fascinating woman who makes an immediate personal impact on Dante and on every reader, and it is because of this that we really do glimpse through her the dancing beauty at the core of all true activity. So we may understand better Jung's insistence that until a concept or a feeling or an attitude is personified, confronted in the image of a person through projection or dream or imagination, no taking thought can change the psyche. If we were to think of Matilda as the active life and leave it at that, we might as well stop reading the poem altogether, since we would certainly be bored by all that follows. For the person Matilda is a forerunner of the person who is Beatrice. Dante, watching her, is reminded of Persephone, and calls to her, begging her to come to the edge of the stream so that he may hear the words of her song. As a dancing lady turns with her toes together, so she to me. Standing facing him across the water, Matilda answers Dante's questions about the forest, and tells him of the two rivers which spring from a single fountain. This one is Lethe, the water of oblivion, and by drinking it, a man's sins are blotted from his memory. But later, on the other side of the forest, he will drink of Euno, Eunoe, and his memory will return. You remember. The word Euno means good mind, and it is not known whether Dante invented it or found it in some lost classical text. When we drink of this stream, sin will no longer be forgotten, but forgiven. That is, will be fully remembered, not as shameful and destructive, but as a felix culpa, the experience of darkness essential to wholeness. So anytime you have a trauma and you feel shame about it, later, after you've done a lot of work, you realize that there's nothing to be ashamed about. It was just a stage or something that happened on the way to your wholeness and your healing. O happy fault that wert the occasion of so great a redemption. It is not time, however, for Dante to pass through Lethe. On either bank, the lady and the poets move upstream, and soon they hear music. The pageant of the sacrament, as Dorothy Sayers calls it, approaches on Matilda's side of the river. For the great focal point of the Commedia, the reunion of Dante with Beatrice, is deliberately set, as though upon a stage, between two great pageants or masks, in which the characters are not symbolic personages, but allegorical personifications in the traditional manner, embodying abstract ideas. The persons are still actual existent beings, as all actors are existent beings, but they are actors, and they are presenting a show. It may seem strange to us that Dante should desert symbol for allegory at the approach to his supreme moment, but in fact the impact of it, of his meeting with the great transforming symbol of his life, who was both inner image and actual person, is enormously enhanced by this stage setting. Also, we must remember that allegory, no matter how obviously it represents abstract ideas to the conscious mind, at once becomes symbolic when it touches associations in the unconscious. The great rituals with which men have always surrounded the enactment of the central mystery of life are of this nature. In the Christian Mass, there is a long preparation for the moment of revelation, a rite of entry, designed to open the conscious mind and the feeling heart, and also to touch the numinous images in the unconscious of a man, so that the revelation may be an experience as total as is possible to him. Numinous means having a strong religious or spiritual quality. So you might see something that someone else just thinks is a rock, and you might look at it and see something totally different and see the spiritual nature of whatever it is that's speaking to you. So maybe it's a sign or something else, but you realize the spiritualness of it. That's numinous. Every detail of the ritual is pregnant with meaning on all levels. Allegorically, one can say of each one such things as, this means purity, this means repentance, and so on. And from the color of the vestments, which is clothing, to the chalice itself, which is the mug, everything may yield a wealth of association to conscious and unconscious. But at the moment of the consecration of the bread and wine, the words are not, "This means my body and blood," but "This is my body and blood." And there follows a silence and a showing forth. So as we shall see, it is with the coming of Beatrice. Dante gazes across the river entranced as the head of the procession comes into view. For him and his contemporaries, there was no frigid allegorical show, nor need it be so for us if we do not become enmeshed in the enumeration of the abstract representations, but rather yield ourselves to the poetry and the images. The 24 elders stand for the books of the Old Testament. The three shimmering ladies, white, green, and red, represent faith, hope, and charity. The griffin is a figure of the double nature of Christ, divine and human. A griffin has the head, the talons, and the wings of an eagle, but the body of a lion. So it's like an eagle and a lion had a baby. All this we may know, but at the moment of entering into Dante's vision with our imagination, we too may watch with enchanted wonder, as he did, the blazing of the fire from the 7-branched candlesticks, the dignity of the old men, the grace and joy of the dancing maidens, and the glory of the rainbow-colored light that filled the sky. And we too may feel awe as the griffin appears with its eagle head and wings of gold, and its red and white animal body, drawing behind it the empty chariot. The wings rose higher than my sight could see, golden of limb so far as he was bird, the rest all dappled red and white was he. Rome upon Africanus ne'er conferred, nor on Augustus' self, a car so brave. Nay, but the sun's own car were poor compared. Nevertheless, all this remains a collective, impersonal ritual, and is meant to be so in order to throw into startling relief the intensely personal nature of the central figure of the whole. We see the triumphal car of the church standing for the altar without and within, upon which the eternal mystery is shown forth in time. We expect a symbol of the sacrament, and Dante, in this moment of high drama, dared to say in effect to every man, the sacrament of the altar is that image, that reality, which in you personally has awakened love and total devotion on every level of your being, body, soul, mind, and spirit. This is, in truth, the birth of Christ within, and can lead you to the unity which is both center and circumference. Beatrice, standing on the car, both plays the part and is the sacrament itself. If we can imagine for a moment Dante standing beside the river and seeing Beatrice approaching without any of the poetry and drama of the mask, we will, I think, realize that it would have been very hard for him or his readers in any age to experience the power and mystery of her double nature. We could think about her divine meaning just as well and feel deep emotion at Dante's personal reunion with her, but the single vision would elude almost all. The medieval rituals have long been dying in the West, and they no longer evoke the numinous in the unconscious of most people. They don't see the spiritual aspects anymore. They just see them as a physical thing. We know too much about them in the head, as Jung said. The Catholic Church long maintained them through the great poetry and visual beauty of the old rites, but these things are now process of being replayed by everyday. These things are now in process of being replaced by everyday talk, emotional music, ordinary dress, vessels, and surroundings. The movement surely springs from a growing consciousness of the great truth proclaimed by Dante. The truth that the sacrament is not something received exclusively in church, but is to be experienced through each individual's God-bearing images in daily life. But we are in danger of losing sight of man's basic need of a ritual, a numinous rite of entry to this very mystery. Since most of us can no longer experience it in a collective rite, Each must therefore find for himself the images which awake a numinous response. So for some, it might be nature. For other people, it could be the actual church experience. But they're saying that doesn't happen as much anymore as a society. They may come to us through nature, art, or relationship, through dreams, or through scientific truth, provided always that we never mistake the means for the end, and that we recognize in them the symbol which stirs to life an intuition of the mystery. One example of a true scientist in whose works we feel that very precision of his observation is a doorway opening continually onto the mystery is Loren Eiseley. He was a scientist and a nature writer. He wrote basically about the spirituality of nature, kind of like Thoreau on Walden Pond, talking about how nature in its stillness was very spiritual. You guys all know what that means. Another was, of course, Teilhard de Chardin. He was a French philosopher and a scientist, paleontologist. Evolution was at the core of his spirituality, scientifically, but also spiritually and with consciousness. He said that creation will not be complete until each being is united with God. So the human and the divine selves balanced and combined. Anything at all can be a doorway for us the moment it expands into poetry. So you can take any object that you want, that you see, and make it have a numinous meaning. So, for example, this nightlight. You could say, oh yeah, it's a nightlight. But you can also say it's spiritual because it represents light in the darkness. And as soon as it gets dark enough, this light turns on. So it's security, it's safety, it's lighting a path, it's wisdom, whatever light represents to you. So you have to take that in everyday experiences and items. In awe, Dante watches the griffin halt. The car is empty, and the moment for which, hearts beating with his, we have waited is upon us. A great shout rises from all the actors in the drama. Benedictus qui venis, blessed art thou that comest. The third person of this hymn has been changed to the second. Dorothy Sayers writes, and it is particularly noteworthy that although that which comes is Beatrice, Dante has retained unaltered the masculine ending in us, which refers it definitely to Christ. He could scarcely give clearer proof of his symbolic intention. And then the lines. Oft have I seen, when break of day was nigh, the orient flushing with a rose-red gleam, the rest of heaven adorned with calm blue sky. Seen the sun's face rise, shadowy and dim, through veils of mist, so tempering his powers, the eye might long endure to look on him. So even so, through cloud on cloud of flowers, flung from angelic hands and falling down over the car and all around in showers, in a white veil beneath an olive crown, appeared to me a lady cloaked in green, and living flame the color of her gown. And instantly, for all the years between, since her mere presence with a kind of fright could awe me and make my spirit faint within, there came on me, needing no further sight, just by that strange outflowing power of hers, the old, old love in all its mastering might. He turns in his joy, as he has done for so long in his fears and pain, to his companion, his father, his friend. To say to Virgil, there is scarce a dram that does not hammer and throb in all my blood. I know the embers of the ancient flame. What a tremendous assertion this is of the holiness of the flesh. His whole being recognizes his love. But Virgil, oh, he had left us, and we stood, orphaned of him, Virgil, dear father, most kind Virgil, I give me to for my soul's good, and not for all that our first mother lost, could I forbid the smutching tears to steep my cheeks. Smutching is like smudged, like dirty, stained, splotch, smearing. It is at this moment that Beatrice speaks, and her first word is Dante's name. Dante, weep not for Virgil's going. Keep as yet from weeping. Weep not yet, for soon another sword shall give thee cause to weep. That's foreshadowing. And then a little later, look on us well. We are Beatrice. How hast thou deigned to climb the hill? Didst thou not know that man is happy here? It is the only time that Dante's name occurs in the Commedia. He apologizes for it as a necessity here, since it was felt to be bad taste for a writer to mention his own name. The effect is therefore very great. Beatrice's first words, standing there on the car in her great symbolic role, are a clear and vehement assertion of his human identity and hers. She is in very truth Beatrice, and he the boy she knew in Florence. Here and here alone in her speech with him, she uses the royal we, and we cannot doubt the deliberate symbolism of this. When a royal person uses the plural we, he conveys to his hearers that he is both himself and the carrier of an impersonal symbolic authority, or she. She accepts the responsibility of her words both as a person and as the king or queen or royal person. So Beatrice here, as she affirms her personal reality, reveals by that unexpected plural that she is also fully conscious of her impersonal identity as God-bearing image, and that the second truth in no way destroys the first. It is an affirmation of the mystery of incarnation and of personal immortality. Guarda si bensem, Beatrice. So that's like, look well, we are Beatrice. Between the Dante and the Beatrice of her first greeting lies a rebuke or a scolding. Dante has come through the long purging. He stands on the threshold of innocence and joy, where all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. And he indulges in a fit of weeping over the necessary parting with Virgil. Dante, weep not for Virgil's going. Keep as yet from weeping. Weep not yet, for soon another sword shall give thee cause to weep. That's foreshadowing. That's like, don't cry yet. Like, you're about to have something to cry about. There's a sword. Woo. She is even ironic. How hast thou deigned to climb the holy hill? Didst thou not know that man is happy here? Even the heavenly beings who surround her are moved to pity and a feeling that she is overstern. And certainly our first reaction is that she is indeed